Hello, welcome to part one of public opinion and polling. I'm going to break this into two just for the length, and to be honest, the topics. Well, we're going to slowly go from one into the other. There's a decent break, so we can make a break out of that, and I'm going to do so today. So, if you have any questions, as always, please let me know. This is the beginning part of what we call our linkage institutions. This will take up the next few tests, because this is where we're going to settle. And what are they? It's something that allows citizens to connect to the government. And there's four major linkage institutions that we have in the United States. And the first one that we're going to talk about, that we're going to lump in with media, is this public opinion and polling. But that's going to be media. And then you have political parties as being another linkage institution. It's something, again, that connects you to government. If you're a Democrat, you are likely going to vote for Democratic candidates, but it's still a means for which you identify with the government, and you support particular people, or maybe you support a certain area of the platform or policy idea that those candidates might have. Interest groups is another of the linkage institutions. These are very common. Many of you, if you don't belong to them yet, you will soon. Sometimes they're professional organizations, other times they're unions. And then the last of these linkage institutions is elections. This is very simple. This is how you participate in government. So on an individual level, we go to the poll, we go vote. That is linking us directly to government. So there you have linkage institutions, and that's, again, just the beginning definition for kind of this entire next several weeks of the semester. So what is political socialization? Here's your textbook definition of it. This is the process through which an individual acquires his or her particular political orientations, your knowledge, feelings, and evaluations regarding your political world. Why do you believe the things are the way that you do? What did that to you? How did you come up with these values, this knowledge, these feelings on particular issues, particular candidates, regarding the political world? Where did that come from? It's continual, as in it doesn't stop. You don't just have it and say, okay, at the end of high school, I'm done. This is what political affiliation I am, and I'll be this forever. Or after college, or whatever benchmark you want to use, or retirement. This is continual, and it can change, and it does change for a number of people. So these, again, that's why they call it a continual process. Things happen that you have zero control over, and oftentimes it will change your political opinions without you even really, recognizing it completely. Public opinion, which again is what we're going to get into in the next unit, is the end result of this process. That's the way you express it. And then what is political socialization? What is public opinion even? Public opinion is anything that can influence your views or attitudes. So anything that happens that influences your views or attitudes. This is just a quick example to show you how your political socialization, and the most common route of your political socialization, is shown through this graph. This, again, the numbers don't add up. They were rounded. But if both your parents are a Democrat, you are almost 60% likely to also be a Democrat. Same for if both parents are Republican. And if your both parents are a Democrat, the likelihood of you being a Republican is pretty low. And also, if both are Republicans, the likelihood of you being a Democrat, again, fairly low. But this shows you your political socialization. Through this chart, you can see most likely your political socialization comes from your parents, from your nuclear family, because that's who you spend time with. They have a monopoly on time. But this graph is a good example of that. I do find it somewhat shocking that almost you're 2/3 more likely to be an independent if both parents are independent. But that, again, shows you that political socialization starts at the home. So where do we get these? And there's 5 places here, and I'll go through these individually and fairly quickly. But what are the agents of political socialization? Where are they? There's a number of them, 5 major ones, and I'll go through a few others that certainly impact you. But school. How does school impact political socialization? Well, one, it does indoctrinate you to specific ideas. We do the Pledge of Allegiance, beginning of second period every day. We do teach in school a lot about capitalism and democracy, and particularly economics and those sorts of things. And we teach you about American figures, great American heroes that existed. And you think back to, elementary and middle school and talking about some of the presidents and great figures in Indiana history. You go through and you go to U.S. history, and you learn about all these great American heroes and our founding fathers and Abe Lincoln and everybody. That is showing you and creating this pride in the system, but it's also making you aware that that's part of the process, that you're becoming part of this democratic process. This does work throughout your educational career. It does play a role throughout it for sure. Mass media definitely plays a major role because there's so much of it. We have more of it than we've ever had right now. TV, newspaper, magazines, radio, internet, all encompassed in this idea of mass media. It does play to the emotions of the target audience. If you are a consumer of, MSNBC, you probably live in a more Democratic household. If you're a consumer of Fox News, you almost likely live in a very Republican household. So you have these two extremes, and they cater to their target audience. That's on purpose. They're doing that, obviously, to get viewers, and they want viewers like the same belief system to tune in, and that's how they get advertisers, and that's how they get viewership. Number of them do have a certain political agenda, and we'll look at a chart in class to see how they stack up against one another. But there is a political agenda oftentimes with some of these outlets. What's the most relied upon? And every student in the class from the last 5 years would all say, oh, it's definitely the internet. That's where we get all of our information. True for your age group, not across the board. More than 98% of homes in the United States have a TV. Most of them more than one. It's like, I think almost half have more than 4 TVs. People still watch it. It's like 145 hours a month. The average person watches television. So it has a huge impact, and that mass media driven through television is very real. Access via cell phones and other devices certainly does impact it and is becoming, more prevalent in the last decade. But mass media does play a very big role. Peer groups also play a big role. You spend a lot of time with your friends. This can be your classmates. This is, as you grow older, your coworkers, or if you have a job now, your neighbors, your friends, people that you're around, people that share some of the same interests as you. This does continue throughout adulthood. Again, you're going to maintain friendships. Some are going to go away, but then you're going to make new friends. So you're going to have different peer groups. When you go off to college, your peer group might look different. It probably will be a different set of people. Why do you have them? Why are you in this peer group? Well, generally, they're people you trust and you believe them, and they usually have about the same opinions on things that you do. People also want to be like their friends. So sometimes you'll change your opinion based on what some of your friends are saying or thinking. And people want to be accepted. That's no surprise there. If you're going to change, if your political attitude is going to change, let's say you are one party affiliation right now. In high school, this is the age about 17, 18, all the way through 25-ish, they say. Maybe it's getting a little older now. But through that, let's say 18 to 25, if your political affiliation or orientation is going to change, it's going to be in this time frame. This is when it most likely happens. Why? Because your parents they don't have a monopoly on your time anymore. You're spending time with family, you're spending time with friends. You're going out, you're going off to college, you're living with friends, you're spending most of your time there, and you're opening yourself up to different ideas than what you've heard before. So if you're going to change, and this group is very prevalent from about ages 18 to 24. Opinion leaders, people you listen to, and you can say, oh, anybody that's big on social media can certainly be an opinion leader. It's any person who, for any reason, has an unusually strong influence on the views of others. Who is this? Yeah, social media leaders for sure. Politicians, a governor, the leader of a local governmental organization, or even like a group that you're involved in. It can be elected officials, doesn't have to be. It can also be media stars. You might think Kanye always comes up. Oprah always comes up as a major opinion leader. Very true. President Obama, certainly an opinion leader still. Those are figures. Some, again, President Trump, Governor Holcomb, they can all be opinion leaders and often use their ability to have the press there as a means for communication. So people listen to opinion leaders. Historical events do impact your way of thinking, and you might not have lived through them, although maybe you're living through one right now, but they do. September 11th, a big change. A focus prior was not on the things that were going to be prevalent post 9/11. Post 9/11, we became a security-driven society. We began about safety and security, a global war on terror. Things like this all took the forefront, took over, and people paid attention to what was happening. Other things that changed, and these were big shifts in the way people voted. Great Depression. People saw political loyalty shift greatly during this time. Prior, it had been a lot about, individualism, and after it was a lot of people trying to look out for the group, the needs of their community. World War II certainly was a massive time, changed people's political affiliations and an idea and more of an identity, again, back to this security. And then the civil rights movement also was a major player in historical events and changing people's political attitudes as things unfold. So these are major events that can happen, and certainly will happen in your lifetime, where you might see a big shift from Republican to Democrat or from Democrat to Republican. A few other things. Again, some people this will impact, others it will not. Religion. Different religions certainly hold different values. And as we get into voting in election, we'll talk about what different religions tend to vote. And that's, again, a broad generalization, but that's what people tend to do. Race. Different races, ethnicities have different experiences, lifestyles, beliefs. You can say, oh, no, it's all the same if you want, and you're sitting in your chair or you're in the classroom, you're thinking, no, it's not. That's not true. We're just looking at it. It's true. It's very true. People have different experiences based on their race and ethnicity. From a personal experience on a day-to-day level at school or at work, it's different. It's not the same. Gender, very different outlooks as well. Men and women have very different outlooks on issues. They call this the gender gap. This is not the gender pay gap that you often hear about. This is the gender gap that more women will vote Democrat than men. That's, again, having different outlooks on things. Age, as you gain more experiences or care about different things. Churchill said, if you're not Labor when you're young, which is their more liberal party, you have no heart. And if you're not a Tory, which is conservatives, when you're older, you have no brain. That your political opinions will oftentimes shift as you gain experience in life-changing events. Region, where you're from. People in the Midwest believe a lot differently than people in Texas or people in Florida or people in California. Where you're at says a lot about your political socialization and what direction you may lead when you're going to the polling place or your views on particular topics. As always, I went through that fairly quickly. I'm sorry. I know I speak really fast, but if you have any questions, let me know. Please stop by the room or shoot me an email, and I will be happy to answer it. And part 2 will be coming up in just a bit.